Hi, welcome to the Animation Industry Podcast. My name is Terry, and right now I'm drinking a beer. This chat is with Wahid Ibn Reza, who is a writer, director, and visual effects / animation production manager in Vancouver, Canada. Wahid's animation journey began back in Bangladesh, where he became a quite well-known actor, but he decided to give up everything and come to Canada to try to break into the film industry here. Since then, he's worked on tons of amazing projects like Guardians of the Galaxy, Rick and Morty, Batman vs. Superman, Game of Thrones, Hotel Transylvania 2, and Doctor Strange, just to name a few. And in our chat, he's going to share what starting over in Canada was like so late in his career, as well as some of the unheard of risks he took that led to big career payoffs. So now, let's jump in.
Hi, Wahid. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Terry?
I'm doing great. So thank you for joining me on such a beautiful day to talk about what you do in your life and your career and everything.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It should be fun.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I'm interested in your journey, especially because you came from Bangladesh. I'm wondering how can you just share, your story? Where did it start from you? How did you get here?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's going on?
So I have a very interesting background. So I grew up in Bangladesh, and I grew up in a household. My mom was pretty cool. So my mom was a fan of Star Trek. My mom loved Batman. So she introduced me to comic books and sci-fi at a very early stage. And I knew who Captain America was before I understood the concept of America, like as a country. So I would run around in my nana's place with a blue trouser, and I had this bucket cover that was red, and that was my shield. So I'm like Captain America.
Hey, you're wearing a Captain America t-shirt.
I'm wearing a cap t-shirt. So I was Captain America for life. So growing up in 80s, I don't think that many people in Bangladesh were exposed to this kind of culture and this kind of stories. I loved Spider-Man. I loved Batman. So that gave me a very unique perspective. Like I grew up with the sensitivity of the Eastern culture, but also the freedom of the Western. That was also built inside me. And then again, I'm the only child of my parents. So they wanted me to go to do engineering school because, if you're brown, you have to be either doctor or engineer or lawyer, or you're a loser. That's pretty much it. Like you have to do one of the three things, or you're just not good. So, and I was a good student. So I get into this engineering school, which is back home. It's not just grades. You actually have to take an exam, and then 1 out of 50 people who takes the exam gets in. It's a very competitive field. So I got into mechanical engineering, which is pretty cool, pretty awesome. And around the same time, I was writing poems. I'm writing for a local satire magazine. So I'm finding this creative outlet, but engineering was not that, like, you can be creative engineer, but you have to be very good engineer to be that creative. And I know that I'm not that good. I was like, okay. So then we actually made a short film in the engineering school, and this has never happened before. Everybody went nuts, like, what? They made a film in engineering school? It was like, you're supposed to do math and, like all coursework. And we're like, no, we made a short film. And the reaction that I got from that film made me realize that, hey, this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. Don't want to be an engineer. I want to work in entertainment. And on that time, I was working as an actor for stage. We had a theater group, again, writing poems, writing lyrics, writing for the satire magazine. It's called Unmad, which is actually inspired from the Mad magazine. It's still going on. So I, after that short film, I still finished my engineering degree, but I didn't pay any attention to the coursework. Like my grades were not that great. I graduated and I told my parents that I want to work as a writer. So you can imagine their thrill. So the people would ask them that, what do your son do? And they're like, oh, he just graduated. So what does he do now? He just graduated. And their jaws would clench every time they would say. And then I got a break working as an actor for literally the biggest writer director of our country. His name is Humayun Ahmed, and he's like, how would I compare? Like he's like J.K. Rowling's of Bangladesh. Like every household has one of his books at least. So
Yeah.
he's really huge. And he saw me, he liked me for some reason, and he casted me for like 4 different TV films in like holiday season. So I'm from Bangladesh. It's a Muslim country, and we celebrate Eid, which is like Christmas for Muslim folks. So in Eid, you have a lot of TV specials. So I was the lead on like 4 different TV specials directed by the biggest writer and director. Boom, my face is all over the news, faces all over the place. And my parents were like, oh, that's what he's doing now. Please stop.
Finally, they could be proud, I guess.
Be proud. And then things just started to happen. Like I was cast on a TV commercial directed by another like, and he's like the next generation, the biggest filmmaker from back home. Like his name is Mustafa Faruqi. He has done tons of work. So he cast me for this really fun commercial where like I'm eating. It's a toothpaste commercial, and I'm like eating food, and my teeth are so strong that I bite off a fork. And the still last image was like my face looking at a fork like this, and that became the billboard for that product, and my face was the billboard across the country. So everybody was like, oh my god, that's the guy with the fork.
So you're like walking down the street and people are like showing their forks at you.
Yep. I've had parents coming up, angry parents, like, you shouldn't have done that. My kid tried that and hurt their teeth. I'm like, then they actually added a disclaimer. This is the ad.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yes. So, and I was enjoying it, and I started working as a writer. I was the head writer for the the biggest ad company, ad agency back home, Gray Advertising. I had my own TV show that I was writing. And I was starring in a TV series by again Humayun Ahmed, the biggest writer director. But I really wanted to work in North American projects, like I really did. So I was like, you know what? I've already reached to a point where like I'm at the top, like at
You're
the
number
top.
one celebrity in your country.
Not number one, but I know number one very well. That's where my status is at. You know what?
Wait. So like you're in engineering school, and like engineering school is not easy at all.
No.
Like I know engineers here, and it's insane. Like I can't do that. And like I went to business school and thought I was like okay smart wise, but not when it comparatively. So you're like going through school, and then somehow you're finding time and motivation to do all of this creative outlet on the side. And like how, I mean, the way you're describing everything, it just kind of sounds like, this fell into your lap, and then it fell into your lap again, and fell into the lap again. How determined were you to, like, how hardworking were you to make this?
I was very hardworking. Like nothing fell on my lap. Like say, for example, the
Yeah.
first break that I got, like an acting break. So this was through the satire magazine that I was writing for. So I love making jokes. I love making fun of myself. I have a book called Self-Deprecating Humor. That's like my joke book that I wrote. So so for that magazine, we were supposed to interview Humayun Ahmed, the biggest writer in our country, and our connection was like his youngest brother is actually the editor of our magazine. So his name is Asanavi. So that was our like connection. So we were going for that interview, and I'm like, and the guy who was supposed to go and take the interview, he really wants to act. He's like, oh my God, my dream is to act on his production. And I'm like, you know what? And he was super nervous. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with you. And what's the worst thing that's going to happen? He's going to say, no, you guys don't have it. Get out. All right. That's fine. We don't care. We're just, a couple of dudes, and we're just going to show up. So we showed up, and during our like interview process, he basically said to me, he just looked at me, he's like, you have a very unique physique. So I'm a big dude. I'm like 6 feet, and like I'm like 4 feet wide. So that's a very uncommon thing in Bangladesh, right? There's like 5 of us in back home. we have a club. So that's my self-deprecating humor for you. So so he just looked at me. He's like, your physique is very unique. It's very common in USA, in North America, in Russia, but not so much. have you ever tried acting? And I'm like, yeah, I love acting. I act on stage, and we're working on some TV production that hasn't been aired yet. And he's like, how how would you like to be on my production? And my friend who really wants to act is sitting next to me, and he's like, and I don't know him. At that time, I'm like, I moved on. I'm like, yes, that is why I'm here. So, yes, I want to do it. So the first night of the whole, like when he initially had me for one show, all right. So I went in the night before. Like, he has this place called Nuashpolli, which is like a huge area where his personal like set, like he does all his filming there. So he took me there the night before, and we chatted all night about like poetry, about literature. And I actually gave him my books. Like, I had two book of poems by that time, and he read them. And I'm like, I do not want anything more out of this experience. I'm maxed out. I'm happy. I'm done. If I don't do well tomorrow and they kick me out of the set, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I was relaxed. So the next morning they start filming, and so he's so Humayun Ahmed, and we all call him Humayun Sir because he was a professor as well back home. So so Humayun Sir, he was like, his direction style was like, he would he would really shout. Like, he would go like, no, 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 no. And his logic was, if you can take that initial blast, you will do fine. That was his like test of metal or something like that. So so my first shot was having a guitar and like lip singing to a song. But they never played the song for me. They just started the song and say action. So obviously I couldn't lip sync. Then he said like, why, that was terrible. I'm like, wait, I've never even heard the song. I have to heard the song to be able to sing the song, or like mind singing. And then he was like, yeah, that's logical. Hey, let me hear the song. So I heard the song, I played my guitar, and boom, first take, okay. And he was like, oh, that's great. We're moving on. That's a good take. And everybody on the set was like, wait, what? This fat dude just got his first take okay? So then he told me later that, oh, I saw that you were very casual and very free in front of camera. Like, you're like action, you're on the character on the spot, and he really liked that. And then it happened. So so none of this would happen if I hadn't tied up with my friend and said that, hey, I want to go there and try it out. Like, that's one of the things that I do. I always try. Like, I always knock very politely. I'm not rude. I'm not abrupting anything, but very politely that, hey, I'm here.
Totally.
No,
I think
no, there's no room for you now. Okay, I'll come back, and I'll come back again.
I think if that was me, I'd be like, no, the interview's set up. Like, I would love to be there, but it's, I wasn't invited. But your mentality is like, I'm gonna show up, and whatever happens, happens, and put myself out there.
I'm like, I'm not pushy, but I'm like very cuddly, like a teddy bear. So I squeeze.
So at some point I'll just see you in the room, and I'll be like, oh, Wahid came here because he squeezed his way and he's not supposed to be here. Yes. But I'll give him the opportunity now because he's here
and he seems delightful.
Yeah, he seems delightful. But also, I love that you weren't trying to get anything more out of the experience, because like when I do that, I get so anxious, and then I'm in my own head, and then I'm like tripping up over myself, and I'm not giving a good impression. So yeah, totally. Okay, thank you for that story. That was so fun. Let's forward track a little bit. So, you said you've hit the max of your career kind of in the entertainment industry back home, and then you wanted to come to North America to get into, television, film, etc. How do you make that switch? How you just showed up and said, hi, I'm ready to work on a TV show in special effects?
So what happens was, like, I started applying to schools, right? So I wanted to do another degree because I'm a bit traditional in a sense that I'm not a good learner by myself. Like, I cannot learn through like YouTube tutorials. Yeah, I need to be in a structured form, and somebody needs to tell me in person. So I started applying for schools. I got rejected for all the schools. Like the first time I applied, everybody rejected. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing wrong? Then I realized that I was doing wrong. Like I was doing wrong in every aspect. Like I didn't have a good show reel. I didn't have a good script samples. So then I tried again, got rejection from all the schools in states. In Canada, again, all the schools got rejected. And I'm working full time, right? So I'm doing that on the side. And if you haven't applied for a university, even if you're an international student, it's very stressful because you have to take language tests, you have to convert your grades that this part of the world will understand. So it's a whole other process. So I'm doing all that. So the third try, again, I always try. I always
Wow.
try. That's my thing. On third try, I got into one school in States. The tuition fees were really high. And in Vancouver, I got into UBC. And they were like, oh, you do not have a bachelor in arts, so you can't do master's program in arts. But what you can do a second bachelor in film production, but we'll waive the 50% credit, like the generic credit that you need for a bachelor, like a science credit or something like that, because you already have an engineering degree. I'm like, that sounds like a really good plan. And then I did some research on Vancouver, and I found out they filmed MacGyver and X-Files in Vancouver. I'm like, that's two of my most favorite shows of all time. I have to be there. So I made the call to come to Vancouver because two of my childhood favorite shows were filmed here.
You know,
That's
they
how
they
stupid I am.
they advertise that on like the subway in Toronto. Like there's still ads being like, we worked on the X-Files.
Nice.
Come to our school. And X-Files is like, when did the last season? Like I've seen every episode too, but it's old now.
It's old. Yeah, it's in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came here to UBC, and then my first exposure was it was not that great because back home I was signing autographs. I had a life, had a status. Here I'm taking the bus, and the bus is dropping me off at the bus stop, and it's like 2 kilometer walk in the rain to go to the school building. And I'm super lazy, so I used to take stoppages, like how bus has stoppages. I would like sit on a bench and with an umbrella, and I was tired, and then I would walk to the school building, which is very weird.
You're like, nobody knows me here. Nobody's giving me a free ride on the way.
Oh my god, it was not the best feeling. And then I think
But your drive, so this is, you said you wanted to write, but this is to get into special effects.
no, this is I got into film production. I didn't know back then that I would work in special effects or animation.
Okay. So you just wanted to work in North American film.
In North American film. My goal was to work in North American film, so I needed a film production degree. With that degree, what I'm going to do, I didn't know at that time.
Okay.
I just came in. I think the most fun I've had at school was the creative writing classes because I love writing. But I'll tell you a story, and it's a bit sad story. So my first day at the creative writing class, I loved the lecturers. I went to talk to the professors. Hey, I've had over 10 years experience writing in Bangladesh, and I know that getting a writing job, you need an agent or a manager in North America. And I would love to learn about that process if you could give me some time. And he was like, oh, yeah, sure. I thought you didn't understand my lecture. I'm like, no, I understand your lecture fine. Lecture, no issue with that. So then I realized that, because I have an accent and I look different, I have to break a lot of ceiling to get to where I want to go. And it's a challenging situation. I've had this conversation with a fellow student of mine who said to me, to my face, you're from Bangladesh? You guys have TV? I'm like, what do you mean? Like TV in my bedroom back home? Yeah, I have TV in my bedroom. And he's like, no, like TV in general. I'm like, no, yes, we have TV. What are you talking about? This is 21st century. So I realized that, the North American perception for the rest of the world is not that clear, because it's such a big country, it's such a big area, they're all self-contained. So they don't Google other places that much. That's my understanding. So I realized that this is the barriers that I have to break. I was very fortunate. I actually got highest marks in my creative writing classes, and I took master's level courses, and I got like 90% in both of the courses. My professors actually loved me. I'm still in touch with them. And they're very supportive. They really like my ideas. They like my sense of humor. So I knew that I had it, but to prove it, it's a whole other thing.
Oh yeah.
After graduation, so I during my tenure as a student at UBC, there was this opportunity that popped up. Again, this will tell you about my ability to politely knocking, and so this is an internship opportunity that came out. It's on NBC Universal show for like 6 months, like summer. I'm like, oh my god, this is why I'm here. So I applied for the program right away. I made a nice resume, sent it out. No response. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So I went to the job posting and found out the person who was interviewing. And then I called NBC Universal office to that person. And I'm very politely that, hey, I applied for this program. I haven't heard back. I was just curious, was the progress? And she was like, oh, that's very nice of you to call. We are just evaluating the resume right now. We'll let you know. I'm like, okay, sure. I know that, okay, at least my resume is in there.
Yeah.
So then when they started interviewing, I was the first person that they interviewed. Her name is Angela, and she's like now the head of diversity for NBC Universal. And she was wonderful. And she was like, she really liked my resume because I had lots of YouTube links and stuff. And she was like, you seem the most eager because you were the first person who applied, and you were very excited about it. I'm like, yeah, I want to do this. So I got an interview. For to be an intern, summer fellow on Psych. They were filming Psych, USA Network show in Vancouver. I'm like, yes, I've watched Psych. I love it. So, and it's a diversity fellowship, right? So you have to be diverse. I'm like, all right, I have a chance. So I go in, and you're competing with your fellow students. I see my friend from Philippines. He's like after me. And then the girl who is ahead of me, her name is Melanie, and she's now a big executive at CBC. Melanie is like diverse square. Like she speaks French. She's like Asian. She has native blood in her, and she's freaking good. Like she's the best producing student in our class. I'm the second best. So I knew that she was going to get it. I'm like, oh man, Melanie is here. Why is she here? And I knew instantly that Melanie is going to get it.
Yeah.
Because by that time, I've had the experience of being on the other side of the interview. Back home, when I was the head writer, I interviewed people. So I knew who was the best candidate. And among the people that they were interviewing, Melanie was the best candidate. I have to be objective. I can't just say that, no, I'm the best. I knew that she was best. So they hired Melanie. They didn't hire me. So I was like, oh, man. So I just sent out an email, again, to the executive that, hey, it didn't go as planned, but thank you so much for the interview. If anything opens up, please keep in mind. And I'm willing to move anywhere to do this fellowship because this is really something that I want to do. Around the same time, Suits, the show that is filming in Toronto, the guy who they hired left. He didn't want it to be a summer fellow. So Carmen, who's the production manager, and she interviewed everybody. She got really pissed that, oh, we want new candidates. So Angela from NBC, she referred me. She was like, talk to this guy. He is very eager to do this. So they interview me, and they're like, well, when can you be here? And I'm like, tomorrow. All my bags are packed. I'm ready to come. So they're like, all right, come.
So you just booked a flight.
Booked a flight, and me and my wife, we flew there. We know that we have relatives there, and we could stay with them, so it's fine. So that was my first big internship.
I have never, I've interviewed well over 100 people now, And I have a past career, and I've never heard once of somebody sending an email after the fact. I've heard lots of people send an email after the fact, thank you, whatever. I've never heard once of somebody saying it didn't go as planned. I would love the next opportunity that opens up. Like, you left such a nice impression, a personable impression with this woman, Angela,
Thank
that
God.
she happened to see an opportunity and thought of you immediately.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing. And I'm going to do that every single time now.
It wouldn't hurt. Like, I was
Yeah.
not being pushy. I was very
Because you would not have got, that was your first break in Canada,
That was
I
my
guess.
first
And you
break in
wouldn't
North
have gotten
America.
that at all if you were
No,
playing the typical send 100 resumes,
Yeah.
interview as best you can, move on to the next role. You knew what you wanted, and you're like, I need to squeeze my way in as a teddy bear.
Yeah.
That's the strategy we're
That's
talking
the
about. The teddy
strategy.
bear squeeze.
It's taking a squeeze. So, and the Suits internship was amazing. So that was really interesting. So they told me, what do you want to do? I'm like, what do normally interns do? Like, what they normally mostly sit on the reception desk and answer phones. I'm like, well, that's not fun. And then they're like, well, you can do whatever you want to do. I'm like, well, how about I shadow people?
Yeah.
And they're like, sure. So I shadowed the directors, the first AD, the second AD, the script supervisor. The script supervisor, Daniela, she's really, like, we're friends on Facebook. Like, I love his mom, her mom. Her mom is really funny. She's also based on Toronto. Like, we chat.
Hopefully her mom is listening to this.
Yeah, hopefully her mom is listening to this. I'm a fan of her. She's hilarious. So, and so I shadowed all this role and I learned this process. And this is huge, right? And a North American show budget, it's such an eye-opener for me. Like, their food budget is bigger than our whole production budget back home. So it's a whole other thing. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was reading the scripts and I love it.
Wait, their like lunch budget for the cast is bigger than your entire series?
Production. Yeah, 100%.
You're like, what could we produce? Screw lunch. Let's make another series.
Yes.
Also, I just wanted to say, like, you had no regard for, well, maybe it doesn't sound like you had regard for kind of finances, because you're living in Vancouver, and an internship doesn't pay amazingly, I'm assuming. And you got on a plane ticket from Vancouver to Toronto is like $350 maybe. I don't know what it was at the time. $350 for just one person. You brought your wife. Like, you're probably paying rent still in Vancouver. So you're like, I'm not going to do the finances, because if I do the finances, I'm not taking
it. It will not
this.
make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all. So you like took probably a big personal cut because this is what you really wanted to do. And were you thinking, like, if I get this break long term, it's going to work out? Or were you just, let's go in the moment and do this? And convince your wife at the same time?
Almost 50-50, almost 50-50. I was like, my wife was happy because she gets to spend time with her family. Like, we stayed with her uncle. For me, I was like, okay, this is my first opportunity, like the first big break in North America. I have to do well.
And you're waiting for years for this.
I have waited for this is like dream. This is dream.
Yeah.
So I went all in and see what happens. I always know that if I want to go back in Bangladesh, if I have to go back, I have a base there. Like, I always
you can be in the next toothpaste commercial.
Exactly. So I think I'll survive. Let's see. And the internship at Suit went fantastic. Like, I shadowed all these amazing, talented people. I used to read scripts. Like, the showrunner, Aaron Kosh, the writing team was so good. Like, every scripts, every iteration would actually elevate the script. And I learned so much. And I actually, like, they used to throw out scripts, like old scripts. I actually got a lot of them. That was my possession. I didn't shop anything because I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. That was my...
You're making clothes out of these scripts you found in the trash after you read them.
Yes. So that was my thing, that, okay, I still have those scripts. Like, I have them in this apartment as well. And it's been a long time. And this was in 2012. So it's been
so valuable, though, to be able to read those.
And again, to tell you about my, I ended up getting a second internship while I was at Suits. So, and this happened again so randomly, but again, I'm very fortunate, but I also work really hard. So I'm working on suits, and so this kid, this like 4 year old, he was playing around in the lunch area, and it was lunch break, and he fell. He fell and he hurt himself, and I was like, oh wow. I wanted to give him, praise. I was like, wow, you fell like Spider-Man. And he instantly was like, he lit up. He's like, yeah, you think so? I'm like, yes. And he forgot about his pain, and we chatted for like half an hour. We bonded. I didn't know he was the son of an executive from.
Wait, so there's just a 4-year-old walking around,
Yes.
unsupervised.
Well, his mother was nearby.
Okay.
His mother was nearby in the cafe area, but I didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
But then I found out she was the executive of NBC, and she was like, "Hey, Suits is going on hiatus. What's your plan?" I'm like, I have no plans.
Can I have your personality, please? Like, if I see a 4-year-old hurt themselves, my immediate reaction is like, stay away. Somebody else can take care of that kid. I don't want to get involved.
In my mind, I'm always 6, so I feel like I have bond with the kids. So then she hired me for like 2 weeks to do.
But that's crazy. You talked with a 4-year-old, and then you got a job from the top executive out of it. Yeah. Like, what the heck? This doesn't sound real. Like,
no, it doesn't.
Like, made up.
No, it is. It sounds made up, but it happened. And then I got into this giant sci-fi set, and I get to shadow director Michael Nankin for 2 weeks, and he was so nice. He would take me to a set, and he would be like, okay, we're filming this scene. How would you film it? I'm like, wait, you are asking me? He's like, yeah, go for it. Then I would say, oh, I would take up here. It's a dream come true for a film student, right?
I feel like you're just making this up.
No, that's true. I actually, I'm a member of Directors Guild of Canada now, and we have this luncheon not lunch, like a get together every once a month. And Michael Nankin was the head director for the last call. Yeah. And I said to him that, I don't know if you remember, but I was an intern for you for 2 weeks, and you were so nice to me. You were so kind to me. And he's like, oh, you just made my day. I actually do remember you. You were very sweet. I'm like, oh my God, that's so wonderful. So yeah, and it was such a cool experience. I was sky high. And on that same time, I had a very fun thing happen. And this is again very random, and you will not believe it, but I can show you a clip of it happening. So I was watching Conan, a talk show, late night talk show, and he made a mistake. And he had this segment at that time called fan correction. Fan could send him a video of what mistakes that he had made, and he would show it on his show. So I was watching the show on Thursday, and they made a mistake. They dropped bomb from a passenger plane. That was the bit on Steven Tyler singing American national anthem, butchering American national anthem. So that was the whole comedy bit. So I told them that, wait, you couldn't find like an actual bomber plane? You have to drop bomb from a passenger plane? What the hell? And then I told myself, maybe I should push myself. And I said, Bat Conan. I actually did that. And I sent in the video. I had no idea. Okay. This is Thursday. Monday, I'm watching the show, and Conan O'Brien says my name. He's like, no, Wahid from Vancouver. And I'm like, and I screamed. My wife came from next room, like, what happened? I'm like, I'm on Conan O'Brien. I'm on Conan. And then they showed my clip. They showed my clip on Conan O'Brien. So that is actually on my resume. If you ask for my resume, it's in there. I have a Vimeo clip that I sent to people. It was a very good conversational piece. But it was great. So I was really high, and I was doing well in my school program. I was in Dean's List for the very first time. I was a very good student because I was studying something that I love, that I wanted to learn. But then the reality hit. Graduation happened. My film, I made a short film that went to smaller festivals, not big ones, like small festivals, but it did well. I won one Best Student Film Award, which is pretty nice. But then the reality hit. There was no jobs. Like I was applying for jobs. At that time, there was a conservative government in Canada. So the rules were really strict in terms of getting your permanent resident. And if I were to work on set, I have to be members of union. And you can't be union member if you're not a permanent resident. So it's a catch 22.
Yeah.
And I could work on like other things, like I had post graduation work permit, but I didn't want to work on sales or something else. I wanted to work in film. I submitted to 84 different places, not a single interview.
Wow.
And I'm like, why is this happening? Like my films went to festival, I have a really good resume, and I've done internship with NBC. Why nobody's even considering me for an interview? So then a friend of mine, his name is Nicholas, he's from Colombia, an international student like me, and he's like, are you putting your Bangladeshi experience? I'm like, yeah, I am. Well, when you do that, they think that they have to sponsor you. And the organization, they don't want to sponsor people because it costs them money.
Yeah.
So they prefer the local talents. And you should tell them that you have an open work permit, so they don't have to worry about it. And then they may hire you. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. So what I did, I took all my Bangladeshi experience, my 10 years of writing, directing, all random different experience that I had, took them all out. Just fresh graduate from UBC. This is what I've done. The first place that I submitted resume, they called me for an interview. It was at Birdell Studio. It was for an unpaid summer internship.
Unpaid.
Unpaid, yeah.
I didn't know those exist anymore here.
No, it was.
I don't even think it's legal. Whoa.
This is back in 2013. It was legal at that time.
Still legal in 2013.
Yeah. So I was working at UBC call center. That was my part-time job, and I was doing really well because I'm brown. So I'm destined to do well in call center, right? It's in our DNA or something like that. So, see, again, self-deprecating humor. I was actually doing really well. I raised nearly $147,000 for UBC. In 3 years I've worked there. I was super.
Do you want to be a call center for this podcast?
I can do that. I'm very good at marketing things.
I'll take $140,000 for running it.
Right? So I was like, okay, that is paying for my my living expense, and I can take an unpaid internship. It would be my first break. Let's see. So I go in for the interview. Athena and Craig, there's two persons who were interviewing me, and they were super nice. They're super nice, very friendly, and they were like, "Oh, you're from Bangladesh and you have all this experience. Why didn't you mention that?" And they were, if I did, you wouldn't call me for an interview. And they're like, "Yeah, that's probably right. I would probably go for somebody local." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I didn't put it out." And they're like, "Oh, you have an engineering degree," and they kept asking me if I pay my taxes. I'm like, "Yeah, I do pay my taxes." And I'm like, "This is for an unpaid internship, bro. What do you need to pay for, taxes? So that you're not paying me anything." The interview happened at 11. I went to my job at UBC, and at 2 p.m. I got a call that they're gonna offer me a paid production assistant job at Birdell. So that was my first job, first break in animation. Oh, I should actually thank somebody. My friend Ujo. She was also an international student from South Korea, and she's a producer now. She told me that I should look for visual effects and animation because she was working in visual effects, and she was like, they hire international students because they need people. They don't have enough people. So because of her, I started looking into those studios. I didn't even know.
Nice.
I didn't even know. So at Birdell, I'm like, oh my God. Birdell has done so many amazing things, like Sindbad, the movie Prince of Egypt. So I was very excited to go there, and I loved classical 2D animation. I love it. Like CG is great, but there's something about 2D that speaks to my heart. So I was very excited, and so they hired me for a studio PA. So what are my jobs? You have to sit on the reception, throw out trash, make coffee. The dishwasher was broken, so I had to wash people's dishes. The dishwasher was not working well, so all these things. I'm like, all right, cool. And my manager, she was like, you would it would take you like half a day to do all this. All right, sure. I did them all by like I in 1 hour. Like I started at 9, by 10 everything's done. And she's like, "You're done?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, give me more." And she was like, "Well, I don't have anything else. Let's reach out to the shows if they need help." So I don't. So they were like, around that time, Bardell was working on a little show called Rick and Morty. Nobody knew what the show was going to be, uh, but we knew it was going to be special because every time we would watch the animatics, we would laugh. Like we would watch same animatics over and over again. It was so well written. So it's a big show and they need help. And they're like, "Oh, okay, what can you do?" So they teach me to like vectorize the background. Like when you do 2D, so it's easier to do the camera moves if you vectorize the outlines. So they taught me how to do that on Toon Boom. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Or on no, it was on Photoshop, I think. Yeah, Photoshop, to open the file, and they showed me how to do it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, well, you can probably get it like 10, 20 an hour. I'm like, yeah, I did 40 an hour. And they're like, hey, this guy is good. We can use him. I mean, we can find somebody to make coffee, but we can use him for actual production. But I would still make coffee. I would still clean dishes. I would still throw out trash. I would do all of that. But I started working on the show and they started giving me more and more responsibility. I ended up doing payrolls for the freelancers who were working out of Montreal. I started sending stuff to the outsourcing studio, downloading. I started assigning people on their tracking software. Like I did like coordination job pretty much, like for the entire first season, which was great. And I got my first credit, a North American credit on Rick and Morty as a PA, which
Amazing.
was unreal. And I actually chatted with Justin Roiland, which was like the creator of the show, right? And I actually sent him an email, which was insane. I sent him an email about how I think the show can be more efficient. And he was like, dude, they should give you a promotion. This is great.
Wait. So you go from getting a job of washing dishes and throwing out trash to sending the creator of the show an email to be like, listen, I have some tips for you to make this more efficient after I drew some vector lines on some background.
Yes.
What?
I was like, hey, because
Are you going to email like our prime minister to be like, listen,
no.
I've been here for a while.
Well, if he was into animation, I would probably do that. No, I was like,
so what? You just have his email because you're part of the organization and you just like type in his name at.
Yeah. What happened was that my friend Nathan, who's the animation director, and he's a super nice dude. He introduced me because, again, the team really liked me. They liked my energy.
I mean, I really like you. I just met you.
Thank you, Terry. I like you too. You're very fun to talk to. So, and then they and I would come up with ideas for Rick and Morty, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're so into it!" So they introduced me to Justin Roiland, and so I just said that, "Hey, I work as a PA, but I've seen this is the thing." So because when you're at the bottom, you tend to have a wider view and you see a lot of things. So that's my perception that I gave, and it came across well. And he was super nice. He still sometimes replies to my email, which is insane. Which is
you send him a weekly update now.
This is what I have been doing.
He's like, oh, another email from Wahid here.
Yes.
Tell me how to run the show.
Last time I sent him an email, I was like, hey, I really want to shift into writing, and I'm working on the shorts, and I sent him a teaser trailer, and he was like, hey, this looks really cool. When it finish, reach out, please.
Might as well. You have the contact. He responds. Amazing.
Yeah. Like it's not like I'm badgering him. It's like once a year or something like that. Yeah. And so Bardell, it was a wonderful time. The Rick and Morty season 1 ended. They didn't know when they will start season 2, so there was a gap. And that's our industry, as you know, as an animator. Like there's always a gap. So they offered me a production coordinator role on Puss in the Boots series. for DreamWorks, which is really cool of them. Around the same time, Moving Pictures Company, MPC, was hiring for a visual effects coordinator. And I just wanted to try how it goes. So, and I've had such a hard time applying for jobs, like 84. I still have that folders with 84 resumes. So I applied for the VFX coordinator role. It was for an asset and 3D DMP department. I didn't even know what 3D DMP at that time was. Like, I didn't know the environment. I didn't know that pipeline. So I went into the interview. The guy who was interviewing me, he was like, "Oh, we are one of the biggest studios. Where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm from Bangladesh." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, we have a studio there." I'm like, "No, you have a studio in Bangalore. That's India, the country next door." And he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "No, it's okay. It's Bangalore is actually very close. I can see Bangalore from my balcony." So I make that joke, and he laughs. And he was like, "I really like you. I'm going to offer you the job. So your first show is going to be a show called Game of Thrones. Have you heard it?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I've heard it. I've heard of Game of Thrones. Yes."
Look at you. Look at you.
Then that's my entry to the visual effects. And my first show, Game of Thrones, very intense because they want movie quality work in TV time. So everybody's working long hours. And at that time, I'm like, all right, this is it. I have to work my ass off. So I would work 12 hours. That's like minimum 12 hours. And I would cover for everybody. If somebody's sick, I'm covering for that person. If somebody's away, I'm covering for that person. If somebody needs any help, I'm covering for that person. All of a sudden, I'm working on multiple shows at a time. Night at the Museum 3, Fast Furious 7.
And this is in production still.
This in production at MPC. So I did well, and they actually offered me a staff role. This is, and you know that this never happens in our industry. Like, it's very rare.
That's unheard of.
Unheard of. And production people, like, they make staff like really senior artists and like talent. Like, production staff, not that much. I was the only production person they offered a staff role, which was very nice of them. And because of that, I could apply for a PR. But I was not eligible. Again, it was a conservative government. The rules were really hard. Like, the rules were like, you have to have a job for 2 years, and the job couldn't have an end date. I'm like, I'm working film. People come in here for 2 weeks to do a job. You cannot have like a contract without an end date. But finally, I had a contract without an end date. And I'm like, yes. So they offered me at that time that, what show do you want to do? There was a James Bond movie or Batman versus Superman. And I'm like, Batman versus Superman. And they're like, well, the James Bond movie is pretty cool. I'm like, Batman versus Superman.
You're like wearing your Batman paraphernalia to the
Yes.
Look at me.
Look, I'm like, I've been trained for this since I was 4.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. So then I got to be on Batman versus Superman. And I was there in very early stage. So, the first teaser trailer that got leaked online, that they showed on a Comic-Con and somebody took videos on their phone, I worked on that trailer. So from that moment till the end, like, now everybody has seen the film, so there's no spoiler. At the end, when Superman dies, I worked on that shot as well. So I knew everything. And it was a huge show. My producer on that show, David P.I. James, he's now like my mentor. Like, I chat with him almost every other, like, he works for Netflix now. We're very good friends. And he's also a big guy like me. I tell him that we bond so well because our ancestor would hang around the same tree, and one went east and other went west.
Now you're reconnected again.
Reconnected again, yeah. So he was a very open producer. Like, he would teach everything. Like, he would show us the budget, he would show us the schedule, the staffing plan.
Super valuable stuff.
Yeah, normally as a coordinator, you'd not get access to that. So I learned a lot. I learned how to schedule the show. I learned how the staffing works. I learned a lot about budgeting. I'm like, wow, this is great. So that show was a wonderful, wonderful ride for me. Very super cool. Finished the show. We were supposed to move on. I was supposed to move on to Suicide Squad. But I'm also a Marvel fan. I really want to do a Marvel show. And at that time, MPC was not doing any Marvel show anymore. So Method Studio, that they were hiring, and they were hiring for Captain America. Captain America, dream. And
What-
my boss at MPC, she was working at Method at that time. She referred me. So for the first time in my life, so I was referred internally.
Hey,
Is like this
how
guy
many
here.
years did that take to get there?
Not that long. Like I think I started working in 2013, so this would be around 2015, 2016. So 3 years. Around
3 years of working as hard as you can, taking
Yeah.
every opportunity,
Yeah.
teddy bear squeezing your way in.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh, and they are interviewing me at Method, and they're like, so what do you want to work in Method? I'm like, well, I want to work in Marvel shows. And they're like, oh yeah, we have one. I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm here. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. So they're like, okay. And so they hired me for Captain America Civil War. Oh my God, that's so cool. So, and I did a bunch of shows at Method. Um, uh, the challenge with Marvel shows are they're very demanding, because they know their universe really well, and they always push every show they push the boundaries. So I worked on Civil War, then Doctor Strange, which got Oscar nominated, so which was insane. Like I was part of an Oscar nomination, which is part of Oscar nominated team, which is insane. And then they made me a production manager. I got a production manager to work on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And again, that got Oscar nominated as well. So which was insane. And on the same time, I'm also working on my passion projects. I didn't give up on my writing or creating. So when I was working on Civil War, I was working till 12 at night. So I remember around 12:30 in one day. I remember the time because it was like so late. I'm like sending out a delivery, and I saw this email popped up. They're asking for ideas for short films by CineQuest Film Festival. I'm like, oh, I have some ideas. Sure. I applied, and they got like 600 submissions. They selected 7. Only one animated one. That was mine. And they're like, oh, we're giving you some money to make an animated short film.
What the heck? Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm like,
why do you think they picked up yours out of 600? 600.
Yeah, that's huge, right?
And there are probably tons of people who've been writing for years, have been like, waiting for this to happen.
I know. Yeah.
So what do you think made yours stand out?
I think my idea was really funny. It's called the Paranoid Cat. It's a cat with super paranoid who fights with a Roomba. That's pretty much. Yes, that's pretty much it. Yes. So it's a 2-minute short film. It's 2D. It's very cute, and they were doing this interesting thing. And at that time, Barco Escape. So that was the company that was sponsoring that event. So they're I don't think they exist anymore. So they're like a 3-screen film viewing experience. So it's not a 3D, but it's like there's like 2 angular screen on the side, and there's a 1 center screen. So you have a wide view. So you're supposed to make the film to fit to that screen. So the way I wrote it felt like it would work really well, and then they really liked it, and they're like, oh, we're gonna give you some money. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not an animator. So I have to find animators. So I reached out to my friends from Bardell. I'm like, well, you guys always wanted to work with me, so come and this is your
money.
chance. Yeah, I have money. So of all the budget that I've had, I've only kept for myself $200, which is really funny. Like I've kept for the minimum amount because I felt like I should give it to the crew because they're working so hard. So when they asked me to give them budget breakdown, I gave them, I paid this much for the animation supervisor, this much for the guy who did the designs and backgrounds and storyboard, this much for the editor and the music, and I kept $200 for myself plus tons of bragging right because this is my film.
So you're basically not paying yourself anything.
No, I'm not paying myself. I'm like, it's okay. I have a job. I'm good. They liked that so much, they offered me free hotels for the festival. So I went into the festival for 4 days, free passes, free hotel, like 5-star Marriott hotel. And well, this pays for my my chunk of the thing. It was a wonderful experience, you know.
So the short film got made
Yeah,
and
it got
screened.
made. It got screened at the Scenic West Film Festival in 2016.
Can we see it online somewhere now?
Yeah, it's on Vimeo. Yeah, it's on
Okay,
Vimeo.
I'll find it out. I'll find it and put it in the description of this podcast. I want to watch it.
Yes.
I didn't know about this.
I can send you the links.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll send you that and the Conan link.
Okay.
Well.
Yeah, and I want to see that too.
So yeah, and then I was like, so that gave me a hope that okay, I can make stuff. I can make stuff that works. I can make stuff that works. So yeah, I've been working in visual effects since at the end of Guardians 2. Unfortunately, my mom passed away. I was very close with her, and you know, and she was such a huge inspiration in my life in terms of like my interest in like comics and everything. So I took it very hard, and I got back. I was not feeling it, you know. I was not feeling it. I was, and this will sound ridiculous. When I got back, I was working on Black Panther, and I was helping out on Avengers: Infinity War, and I was helping out on Godzilla: Kings of Monsters. And, like I was helping on like 5 different shows because they needed people. They were hiring. They needed like those gaps, and Method loved me, and I knew the show. I knew the pipeline, so I was training them, training the new hires. I was like setting up the shows. I was working on 5, 6 different projects.
Are you sure you're just one person? Like I'm not, like you're not triplets or something, right?
I know, right? Maybe I have that. Maybe I'm one of those X-Men. You know, I can just multiply. Oh, so I was just not feeling it, and around that time, Gendy Tartakovsky was going to start Hotel Transylvania 3, and I love Gendy. I grew up watching Dexter's Lab. Samurai Jack was my jam, man. So I'm like, I have to meet Gendy. Does he come to Vancouver? Like, oh, he will come to Vancouver, and if you work at Sony, you may get a chance to meet him. I'm like, okay, I want to work for Sony, but you know, Sony is big. How do I get there? Then I realized I submitted a resume without realizing that 2 of my bosses from Method and MPC now are at Sony. And they're like, hey, this guy is good. We should hire this guy.
So you did this on a whim based on you wanting to meet, like, wow.
Gendy, nothing else.
So you don't like, because when I'm in a job, I'm like, it's so hard for me to switch and do something else. Like I put so much thought into it. Like I was in school and I'm working right now, but it took me months to make that decision. I talked to so many people, like, but it sounds like you're like, I want to do something. I just go for it. It doesn't matter that I'm working 5 jobs right now. I'm going to apply to Sony because I want to meet this guy.
I take chances. Yeah. I mean, Gendy, like for me, it was like meeting Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
You know, it was that big.
Yeah.
So I applied. So and it was.
Oh no.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
4 hours, 3 different shows. There was a show for a Warner Brothers musical comedy. There was Spider-Verse. That was very difficult to say no to Spider-Verse because it's Spider-Verse. It's Spider-Man. It's going to be amazing. And then Hotel Transylvania 3. And I'm like, I want to meet Gendy. Out of this experience, all I want to do is meet Gendy and watch a cartoon because I was really sad and depressed about my mom. And I told myself on my worst day, I'd be looking at cartoon. How bad could it be? So then they offered me the job. I took a job as an associate production manager at SPI, Sony Pictures Imageworks. By the way, that's my daughter crying in the back. It was really funny. Our producer, Carrie, she was asking everybody, she visited from LA. She was asking everybody why you took this job. And I was like, oh, I took this job to meet Gendy. And she was like, you're kidding. I'm like, no, this is serious. Like it was on my cover letter.
So yeah. The cover letter just said, the only reason I'm applying is to meet Gendy.
Yes.
Just
Forget about all the things, your wonderful thing that you do.
I don't
at
care
Sony.
about your culture or what your
No,
company does. I just know
no.
you're working with this guy. So
So I'm taking notes on a client call, and with the with the director's call, and they're in LA, and Carrie just went from to LA from Vancouver, and Carrie was like, "Hey," and Gendy at the end of the call asked Carrie, "How was your trip?" And she was like, "Oh, I had a wonderful time, and I met some lovely people. Hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. He took this job because he wants to meet you." And I'm like taking notes. So I took that note as well. Like, he wants me to. I'm like, wait, what is she talking about? And they're like, yeah, can you turn on the lights? Hey, why he turn on the lights? So because we're reviewing cinema, right? The theater. I turn on the lights, and Carrie's like, oh, that's Wahid. He's our APM and one of our APMs, and he took this job because he wants to meet you. And Gendy's like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, I grew up in Bangladesh, and I grew up watching your cartoons, so you make our childhood a wonderful one. So thank you. I wanted to just say that to you. And he was like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, like, it's, for me, it's like meeting Hannah
oh
Barbera.
my gosh.
Yes, it's insane. So then he actually a friend of mine, one of the coordinators in LA, Brandon, he did something nice, and he actually, I'll show you this poster. So that's a poster of Hotel
Oh, nice.
Pennsylvania 3, and I have an autograph from Mr. Gendy Tartakovsky on it.
Amazing.
So that's, yeah.
Most people I talk to, because I have this question for you, and I feel like you kind of answered it sublimely through what you've said. But most people I talk to, their dream is to, like, you know, become a director or writer or whatnot. But it sounds like you were just pursuing I don't even know how to explain it. You're pursuing your career based on your interests, you know, like,
Yeah,
I want to work for Marvel. I want to work for Gendy. I want to work for
where the heart goes.
where
Like,
the heart goes. And
yeah.
and when your heart changes, you just pursue that instead of I want to make a show, or I want to become at the top of the producer game, which I think is really interesting. I don't know if this resonates with you, but it's very interesting to me so far.
No, it's actually, I feel like, you know, if you can reach the top, it's not up to you.
Yeah.
Whether or not you can make something. Like, I love writing. I would do anything if I could get a chance to write on a regular basis. But I know for a fact that that's not going to happen. No, nobody's going to hand me that on a platter. It's like, hey, Wahid, we really like you, and this you should do this. I don't think that will happen.
But why not? Because so far your career has happened from people offering you, putting yourself out there, working really hard, and then people saying, let's give him more responsibility.
So that's the thing. So that's what I'm doing. I'm putting myself out there. I'm working hard as I can. I'm working hard as I can. And without thinking, without taking on the pressure that, you know, I want to be at the top, I want to be the producer, I want to be showrunner, writer. No, I'm very realistic in terms of my, like, I always give this example. Like, when you are sending a spaceship to Mars, you just don't, like, make a spaceship and send it over to Mars. You go step by step. You make a spaceship that can go to the space, then you send out to the moon, then you go to Mars. So you have to make logical steps. So my logical step is now, like, I'm working hard as a production manager to have that career path to be a producer someday. Along the same time, I'm developing my skills. Like, I'm developing my writing skills. I'm taking participation in writing contests. I was actually a quarterfinalist at Scriptapalooza in 2018. And I was finalist last year at NYC, near NYC Midnight Screenwriting Challenge. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
Those are not jokes. Those are amazing accomplishments. Like, that's really tough.
So for NYC Midnight Challenge, like 2,600 people participated. I was one of the
what the heck?
Top 90. Yes, I was.
Congratulations. So your mentality is like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. I have something good going on with my production career, but I'm going to take starting with baby steps to get bigger and bigger and gain the confidence and writing skills to become a writer. Because I wanted to ask you, because I know that you want to become a writer. You've said that multiple times. I wanted to ask you what specifically what is your strategy? But it sounds like your strategy is to gain momentum until you get an opportunity, an internship, and
To
something,
some
a
extent,
contract.
like because I'm
Yeah.
working in the industry, I have a good network now, so I
Oh,
know a
for
lot of
sure.
people
Sounds
that
like
are
you have a network of everybody.
so, so hopefully that will come in help, come in handy. Hopefully that will help.
Well, how
And
often are you exposed to writing opportunities as a producer? Because from my, like, I'm not a producer, but from my point of view, a producer, they know everybody on a production. They know who's writing, who's directing, who's animating, who's doing
yep.
special effects. So you must hear of opportunities come up quite
Yeah,
frequently, no?
yes or no, because
Okay.
we are mostly, as you know, that Canada is mostly a servicing
Yeah,
country.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
We do
yeah.
productions. Development mostly gets
The
done
States.
in the States. But now a lot of Canadian companies are making content, and especially in animation. So that's why I'm writing a lot of animation.
Hmm.
And I don't know why, but animation ideas are just pouring out of me at this moment. That's what I'm writing. So my first big break was when I actually sold my script to National Film Board of Canada, which was again unreal. And this happened again because of my squeezy teddy bear attitude.
Yeah.
So I'm working on a animated short film called Surviving 71. It is based on the liberation war of Bangladesh,
Hmm.
and not many people actually knows about it. But it's one of the worst genocide in the history of mankind. 3 million people died. Over 10 million people took refuge. It was worst refugee crisis in one of the worst refugee crises in the history of mankind. But nobody knows about it. It's the untold story of an unknown war. This happened in 1971. So I'm making a short film, and part of the short film is also based on my father's own story. Like, he was a freedom fighter who fought the war.
Oh,
He
wow.
got caught. He got caught. He was blindfolded, hand tied to his back on a moving train. And this is what they were doing. The Pakistani army, we were fighting against Pakistan. They were shooting people and kicking them off moving train because they don't want to bury people. It's too much work. It's better this way. So when my father's turn came, they were reloading, and my father heard screaming. So he realized that they're near water. He jumped, and he freaking survived.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, that is an incredible story.
So he knew that as soon as they would shoot him, they would just throw him off the train.
Yeah, and he would
So the
die.
door is open.
Yeah,
He knew he was near the door, and he
yeah,
just jumped.
he just jumped. He survived. And I'm like, I have to tell that story. So I'm making that. So I wrote a script, and that's the script that went to quarterfinalists at Scriptapalooza. So I knew that I had something good
Wow.
going on. So I went to an event of National Film Board because they do fund very unique projects and very auto-driven projects, and this is something that I want to do with this short film. So they saw the script and they're like, well, I'm not an animator, right? Like, normally they do fund the animators, and they're like, well, I'm not sure if it's quite right for National Film Board. Um, they passed on it, and this was like in I believe it was in 2018, yeah. So I was like, well, you know what? It's understandable because I'm fresh. Nobody knows how it's going to look like, and they haven't seen me direct. Why don't I invest on a teaser? So I saved some money, and I hired my friend back home to do the designs and background. And because I knew a lot of people back home, some celebrity gave voices for free, which is super cool. And then I hired a studio in Canada, based out of Newfoundland. Um, and they Curtis, who's the owner of the studio, he really liked the script, and he's like, oh my god, we don't get the chance to do stuff this intense. This is really cool, and I want to be part of it. And they gave me a very reduced rate, like
Wow.
very reduced rate, and they were very kind. And I invested on a 1.5 minute long teaser. So I made the teaser, I put it out on YouTube.
So how do you pitch something like that? Like, hey, random studio in Newfoundland, I have some money and I want to create a teaser to pitch to the National Film Board of Canada?
so
Or
It's kind of like that. What I did was like I first watched a lot of animated short films online.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of animated short films and I saw the studios that worked on it.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, these are the studios, their work I really like.
Yeah.
Their work is in line of what I envision for my project. So I reached out to them. I reached out to a studio in Australia. I reached out to a studio in India. I reached
Oh,
out to a
wow.
few studios in Malaysia and a few studios in Canada.
So what do you, so I'm just curious about this process because
Yeah.
like, you know, not a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
So what do you say? You just send an email to their contact and say,
Yeah.
hi, my name is Wahid. I
Mhm.
have some investment money to create a teaser for a short film that I'm hoping to get funding for.
Yep.
And then how does the conversation go from there? They pass you on to a producer there and then,
I didn't hear back from most of them.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear back from most of them. I just said that, hey, this is the log line. This is something that I do, and I have a budget for $1.5 million. But it's not like a huge budget, but it's a substantial amount,
Yeah.
and I would love to chat.
Can I ask you, I don't know if it's weird, can I ask you how much budget would be?
Oh,
for a
yeah.
movie?
I had only $5,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not.
So it's pretty accessible for like I'm just thinking myself or other people listening
Exactly.
who want to create like a teaser for,
Yeah.
because there's like, I don't know, from the people I've talked to and myself, there's such a barrier, a mental barrier to say, I have this idea for something.
Mhm.
How do I get it started myself? But
Yep.
you know, you were like, $5,000 is not, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money at the same time. And if you want to invest in something, that sounds very accessible.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, it's not. If it was 10 grand, I would not be able to afford that on
Yeah.
my own. But
Yeah.
5 grand, I could, and why not? I always say that if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't take chances on yourself, why would anybody else take chances on you?
Right. Who's going to give you that money if you're not going to, like,
Exactly.
they'll put it to something else.
Yeah, it's so easy. And there's so many other, venues now. So I took this shot and so I sent out emails to everybody. Not many studios actually responded. Some Indian studios responded, but their rates were really high. But the Canadian studio, I have a really bad thing with names. Like I keep forgetting that. And would you mind if I can't remember the name of the studio? That is insane. I love their work. I can remember Curtis's name, who is our who did the animation, like the owner of the show. But so I'm checking on our website.
Oh yeah, no, take a
Stellar Board. Yeah, Stellar Board is the company.
Okay.
They're actually, after COVID, they're not working as much as they wanted to. So Stellar Board, they responded and they were very passionate about it, and that's why what I did, and this is a good tip, I think, that I only reached out to the companies that worked on short films, because most of the big studios, they work on big stuff, TV shows, feature films. They will not give you time to work on your passion project. But if you have smaller studios who work on commercial or make trailer or this, proof of concept videos, they may take you seriously and they actually may invest on it. And I needed somebody like a creative partner who would invest on the vision.
Yeah.
Because it's a very passionate project. And Stellar Board and Curtis, they were wonderful. Like I said, they gave me a very reduced rate. And we were able to make it. And I put it out on YouTube organically. I had no subscribers, almost zero subscriber on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/WIR Films. Overnight, I got like 4,000 subscribers.
What?
Yes. And my video.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, and my video got like I think now it's around 130,000 views.
What?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it on your. I found your white plus fork video, which I was assuming
that's the form video. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So then, when I made the teaser, I knew that I did something that I was proud of. I knew that's something that I was happy, and I knew that's something that reached what I wanted to show. At least I was confident. So then the next year, another NFB event, I showed that to them. Hey, do you have 2 minutes? That was my pitch. Do you have 2 minutes? And they're like, yeah, we have exactly 2 minutes. I'm like, all right, this is the teaser trailer on my phone. And they're like,
It's a minute 45.
it's a minute 45.
We have 15 seconds for you to say yes.
Yes. And they're like, oh, this looks really cool. Why don't you come by to our office? I'm like, sure. So I came by, we chatted, and Terry, my producer, her name is also Terry, and Shirley, she's another producer, and they both interviewed me. And they're like, I would love to read the script. So when they read the script, they're like, oh, this reads like a pilot episode of a series, or like a first act, or like part of first act of a feature film. And I'm like, you know what? That was my plan, to make the Surviving 71 like a short that I'm gonna pitch it for like a feature or series. And they caught it right away because they're so senior producers. They're like, yeah, we see through you. That was your plan, you sneaky devil. And they're like, well, and it's also like, this is we need like the NAB tends to fund projects that are inherently Canadian. And like, no, it has to be Canadian. Do you have anything else?
Yeah.
I submitted 3 other scripts. They passed on it. Like, do you have anything else? 1 second.
I just watched your trailer without sound, but
Okay.
the story comes across immediately, and it's exactly how you told it. It's quite. I guess I'll include it so I don't spoil anything.
I took some creative lips.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, check out the trailer or the teaser. I've included the link in the description of this, so give it a watch.
Thank you. So then I had this idea about 3 animals going to see the last glacier. So that was my pitch. That it's called Last Glacier. It's a wolf, a wolverine, and a beaver going to see.
That's very Canadian.
Very Canadian. As Canadian as you can get.
Yeah, maybe put a moose in there and a goose.
It's like a moose in the background just walking.
And they're eating maple syrup.
Yes.
With poutine.
So with poutine, yeah. So they like the idea. But my first draft, the script I was not entirely sure how I would take, like, when I was adding, like, I had like 2 different drafts, complete different style. I written them in different ways. So I wasn't sure that they would like any of it. Actually, I was confident that they would pass on it. So they asked me for a meeting. I'm like, all right, this is going to be a polite no. It's okay. And I'm like planning that what I'm going to do next. So I went in.
They asked you for a meeting. They're not going to say no.
I mean, you don't know.
Okay. I mean, I'm already anticipating where this story is going myself.
So I went in and they're like, oh, we are going to option this script from you. I'm like, that's my first script in North America. I'm officially a writer. I can say that I'm a writer. That is huge.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, and that was great. And then they gave me amazing notes, really, really helpful notes. And I like the fact that for myself, I was able to address those notes. Like every draft that they saw, it wasn't like, oh no, this didn't work. Like I was able to, like, when you are a new writer, you have to be able to take notes from the story editor.
Yeah.
Or the head writer or the showrunner. So I was glad that, okay, I knew that I could do it, but I didn't have anything to prove, but that was my proof that, okay, I could do it. And so how National Film Board works, and if any Canadian filmmakers or, animators out there who want to submit, I think they take submissions all year around. So it's not like a deadline driven anything. They're really author centric. Like they really focus on, they really support if you're creative, if you have a vision. And I had a very clear vision of the show. Like I knew how it should look, I knew how it should end, and I knew how I was going to tell the story. I think that's what they liked about it. Like along with the story and the character itself, my clear vision helped. So National Film Board, they have 3 stages. The first stage is investigation. When they like a story, they will option the script and they will polish it to a draft that is ready for the next phase, which is the development phase. At the development phase, they give you some funding. That this is some money. You do artwork and you do animatics and you prepare a package. And that's what they submit to the production phase. That's the last phase, where if they like the package, they'll give you funding for the entire short film. So my script, they really liked the final draft, and we submitted for, and we got into the development phase, and they gave me some money to make the designs. And again, I knew how the designs were going to look like. I knew how I'm going to tell the animatic. So I really pushed it. I almost made like a rough layout style, animatic. Like it was not just drawing. I had like 3D sets and whatnot, because it was going to be a CG film, and I really pushed it. I was at that time I was working at Atomic, and they helped me to make it as well. So they came on board, which was really nice of them. And then so that got the development phase. They really like it. So now I made the whole package together, and now they're actually having a meeting next week for the production.
Amazing.
Yeah, if it'll get through or not. If it goes through, then I'll crossing my fingers, I'll get to make it. Yeah, and
this is incredible.
Yeah, I'm working as directors, writers, and because it's the National Film Board, it's a DGC and WGC level contract. So I am now a member of DGC, which is insane. And I am actually going to be a member of the Writers Guild as well.
That's crazy. This is going so well.
This is going well so far. Yes.
So, provided this gets made, how do you see this impacting how you pursue your writing career? Because I feel like maybe that's a next step for you, or like, how do you, what's your plan?
I think if you look at the history of NFB, there are a few creators who went on creating their own shows, and they've been successful.
Definitely, yeah.
So what I want to build on this is now a proof of something, that how I can improve on a script and how I can take it to the production ready. And I'm one of those writers who, because I've worked in animation for such a long time, I know the pipeline really well.
Totally, yeah.
So I know how it's made. So if somebody tells me that, hey, I need an episode to be told in 2 locations, you don't have any new characters, no prop, no issue, I can do it.
Yeah, know how to do it. I love also, sorry, random thought. I love how you're approaching the NFB, like to create a film from a writer perspective, because you're right. Most people are animators that do this. And you were like, screw that. I'm gonna do my own thing, and I want to be a writer, and so I'm gonna propose this. And I've worked with animation studios to figure this out, and I'm gonna keep doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and what I've done, because I have such good network, I am bringing in artists. So I'm sort of like working as a consulting producer for them as well,
which you know so well already.
To gather the troupe. Like I did the schedule. The other day for how it's going to go if we get the grant, and they really liked it, which was very kind of them. For me, at this point, if this short film gets made, hopefully, knock on wood, and if it does well in the festivals, and if the audience likes it, hopefully that will open up some windows that, oh, this is a creator who created this does well in these festivals. We can get them for other shows.
So you, with these opportunities, are you hoping to start applying for writing opportunities and use this as your resume? So what if, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, so I'm hoping everything goes like that, but what if, say, you don't get the funding, you do, and it doesn't do well in festivals or whatnot? Like, what is the plan then?
Well, I'm still working on Surviving 71. So that's another short film that is coming up. So that's like, I got some funding from home. So I made some progress. I'm still slowly building that. If the NFB short is not that successful, it will be heartbroken. But the thing is that it'll still be a short film that you have to show.
Yeah.
As you know, in animation, it's very difficult to make animation.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot just sit and idle. Like, people think that now it's computer. Oh, you just click on a button and it's made.
That's what people think.
That's what people think. That, you just do it, one button, animate.
Meanwhile, you're working 12-hour days for years to get 1 minute done.
I think that they pictured that the computer has a button called animate, and you just press on the button and computer does everything. No, it doesn't. So at least I will have, and by this time, so I have the Paranoid Cat, that's the 2D film, the NAB film, the CG film, And I have Surviving 71, where, based on the trailer, you see it's a completely different action type, very
Right.
epic.
But
So
let
I
me
have,
ask you this, you started this career as
yeah,
as the intern. If we like dial back,
yeah,
you didn't have any of that experience, but you were
nope,
still applying, putting yourself out there. What's stopping you from applying and putting yourself out there as a writer now when you do have 10 years
exactly,
experience
yeah,
from your previous life? You do have these short films, you have won
yeah.
finalists, quarterfinalists, all this. You have the best resume possible for an entry level
I have a
writer, and
good
even more
resume.
than an entry level writer. So what's
Yeah.
stopping you?
No, it's not stopping me. So it's the thing about getting a writing job is like it's very rarely you'll see being posted.
Yeah, so you're
Like,
already applying to those
oh
postings.
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay, I
absolutely,
didn't know
absolutely.
that.
No, no, no. I am applying, but the writers gets hired by the shows, usually the showrunners or the producers or the network
Yeah,
that the writers that they've worked with before.
they have a writer they like.
Yeah, so it's very rare. Very rarely you'll see that, oh, we're hiring writers for this show. It's almost zero. What is happening to me, to be honest, I was almost giving up. I was like, I'm doing good as a production manager, maybe I should just give up on my dream of becoming a writer, because it's frustrating. You applied for something and you don't get it, you
You're
get
working so hard.
depressed,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm such a loser.
Why
And
isn't the
you
world opening up to me? I'm trying so hard.
exactly, it's very it's sad, it gets really sad at times. And I was like, maybe I should just give up, and I can focus on my work more, and I'll be happy. I will not have this extra pressure. And then what I do, I always take chances, and I say, okay, before giving up, before hanging up my boots, I'm gonna try one last time, one last season of magic, and see what happens. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
So the first step was that NFB, and I sold the script. I'm like, I sold the script. And then the second thing was, out of LinkedIn, I met this director, Bahab, and he's a very, very visionary director, and I loved his stuff. And I was talking to him that, hey, if you need any writers, please let me know. I was like reaching out to random people. I'm still reaching out to random people that, hey, if you need a writer, here I am. so, and he was like, well, I don't need a writer myself, but I have an agent who represent underrepresented writers, like BIPOC writers.
Mhm.
And I'm like, sure, will they read my materials? Because they don't read your materials unless you are referred by a person, like somebody that they know.
Yeah, because they get bombarded by like hundreds.
Yes,
They can't.
yes.
Yeah.
So Real Life Pictures is based out of Toronto, and Kulvinder, who's the owner, and she's the agent, and they read my materials, and they saw the teaser trailer, they saw the packages, some of the things that I was working on, and they're like, "We like you. We want to represent you." And I should tell, by this time I had a shopping agreement with the studio, Kickstart Entertainment in Vancouver. And that also happened in a 2-minute experience. It was like, I went to a networking event and they were talking about all this thing that they're going to do. Many, executives, like, these are the writers that we're looking for. So I reached out to this executive, Heather. She's the head of Kickstart. And like, hey, do you have 2 minutes? And she's like, yeah, I have 2 minutes, but exactly 2 minutes. And like, all right, that's all I need. So I showed her the Paranoid Cat. It's a 2-minute long film. And I'm like, oh, this is so cute. Do you want to develop that? I'm like, no, I wanted to show you that I can make stuff, but I have some other ideas that I want to pitch. And they're like, yeah, sure, pitch it. So I pitched it to them, and they liked one ideas, and they signed a shopping agreement with me. And I was like, okay, this is it, man. Hollywood, here I come. I'm the creator of a show. And they brought in Shane Morris, who is one of the story writer for the Frozen, to write a treatment on an idea that I came up with. And I'm like, this is big. But like many things happens in Hollywood, some similar shows started popping up.
Yeah.
And the executive who brought the writers in, he left the company, and the writer had other commitments, so he left. So my contract fell through. So again, that was part of the depression. It was like, oh, it will not work out. So
but at least you have all that experience and
Yes,
know that you can push yourself and get somewhere. And I love that. Again, you have 2 minutes. Nobody's going to say no.
Yeah.
And you're just like, here you go.
Here you go, video.
I feel like you should maybe give up more often, because
I should. And that's when good things happen.
That's when good things. Okay, after we're done this call, give up on everything.
Give up on everything.
And I'll see you at the Oscars next year.
Yeah. I for so the real life pictures, Cool Window, they were like, yeah, we would like to represent you. I'm like, oh wow, this is it. I have an agent. Now here's the thing. They're really good. Kulvinder and Charan Preet, who's the junior agent there, they're really good at giving notes. So I'm showing them stuff and they're giving notes left and right. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so bad at this. I should give up. This is not. I was like nervous, but I knew that I had it in me. But I just had to get it out somehow. And I was chatting with a lot of writers. I have some amazing writers who were very kind to me. I don't know why. Mark Palmer, who's the showrunner of Hello Ninja, he gave me notes on my scripts. And like, who does that? Brandon Sawyer, he was the showrunner on Boss Baby. He would give me notes, and I'm like, who does that, right? They were very kind people. So that helped to shape things. And now I cannot officially say a lot of stuff, but a lot of the writing things are in the horizon. Like they're like very close. I can taste them. Like I signed a few papers. That's
amazing. Well, I guess we'll have to have a follow-up chat after you can reveal, so you can share all the juicy details. This is great. I love your journey. It's just like
thank
you putting yourself out there in whatever way you can, working really hard, and then giving up.
yes. Like I get knocked out, but I get up again.
What would you say makes like through everything you've done, what would you say is the thing that makes your journey so successful, I guess? Like what is that underlying thing that has pushed you to pursue these crazy paths? Because you know, like working 12-hour days and jumping jobs and all this stuff. Like what is that thing for you?
I think I'm very tenacious. It's one thing about me. I'm very tenacious. I'm at it. I'm at it, and I'm not pushy. I'm not. I hope not. I'm not overreaching, but I'm reaching for the stars, but I also know that I have to take realistic steps.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to happen where like I'm just standing by the. I thought it was going to happen that I would stand by the side of the road and an executive would drive by. He's like, hey man, I was looking for just somebody just like you. It's not gonna happen. That is not going to happen. This is not 70s or 80s anymore. So I have to take realistic steps. I have to develop myself, and it's a constant journey. Like I feel like, and I think you'll agree that you have to be very honest about yourself. If you think in your mind that, oh, I'm great, then I'm sorry, you'll be very stagnant in a very short time.
Oh yeah. I fall into that trap too, because like, I don't know, I feel like I'm at I've already had a career and kind of know what I'm doing. And when I start to think like that, then it's not good. People get a bad impression. I don't take the risks and opportunities that I should, because it's just so. I like that you said that, and I need to remind myself of that too.
You need to be humble, and you need to be hungry. You know, metaphorically, I'm literally always hungry, and metaphorically, I'm always hungry too. Like, you have to have that hunger, and I think it was Da Vinci who said that an art is never finished, only abundant.
Yeah,
such a powerful words, right? It's never finished. So you can't say that, oh, I'm done and I'm really great at it. No, you can't. You just can't do it. You just have to be at it. You have to be at it, and you have to try. It's very hard. It's very challenging. Yeah. It's often not rewarding, often really frustrating. But when it happens,
you're not really in control of your own path at all.
That's the best thing. It's not on you. Like when you say that the NFB short, I don't know if it'll get made or if people will like it or not. All I can see that I'll give my 120% and it's like, see what happens. When I finally met Gendy, like in person, it was at the rap party for Hotel Transylvania, and I told him, that I stole the background style from Hotel Samurai Jack to Surviving 71, and he was like, "Yeah, take it, no worries." So I told him that I want to make my own stuff, and he was like, it only has to happen once.
Yeah.
If it happens once, then so that is now my goal. Like,
Just has to happen once.
My goal for this year is to write one preschool script. That's my goal.
Nice. Just on your own, or something that gets made?
No, I've already written a spec.
Okay.
On my own, I will write plenty. No, this is just to get made, to be actually optioned and sold once.
Nice. I love that. It's like bite-sized. It's still really tough.
Very tough.
But it's like a realized goal that you can make happen. I love that.
It is achievable. Yeah. I'm not saying that I'm going to have lunch with Matt Damon.
No.
Maybe in 10 years, but not now.
Just email him like you do everybody.
Yeah, I would like email him.
And you want to have lunch. Also, here's how you can run things better.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, like, there's a lot of people in Bangladesh who kind of idolize you as this guy who, got into engineering school, 1 out of 50, which is already incredible, became a TV star very early, and then moved to North America to pursue an amazing career in Hollywood film, basically. Yeah. So what would you say to them? Somebody's listening to this and they're at the beginning of their dreams and they want to...
What I say to them, and I say this to everybody, now the world is really small.
Yeah.
The world is very small because of internet. Like, when I moved here and I saw that when people ask me if you have TV, I'm like, the thing is that I have read the same Harry Potter books as you are reading.
Yeah.
Maybe I read a really cheap version of the book, like a photocopy version, but the story is the same.
Yeah.
I watched the same movies that you were watching. Maybe I watched it in a crappy VHS or not on the big theater, but the story is the same. So the input that I'm taking is the same.
Yeah.
So that means the idea that I'm generating, what I'm producing, has to be at the same standard because the input is the same.
Yeah.
And I think mine will have a different perspective because I've seen so many other things that unfortunately a lot of the people here haven't.
Yeah, that's very true.
That gives me a very unique taste, a very unique color, a very unique tone to the work that I'm doing.
Which I feel so desperately needed, especially these days.
Nowadays, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like the world is very small. So you shouldn't, just because you're in Bangladesh, you shouldn't feel like, oh no, my ideas, my stories doesn't matter. No, take participant, take chances in the global competitions. You may never know. Yeah. Submit your film to festivals, submit your scripts to competitions. You just don't know. How would you know if you never try, right? But then again, you cannot be just say that, oh, I'm going to make a film and I'm going to be Steven Spielberg overnight. No, Steven Spielberg didn't become Steven Spielberg overnight. He had to work really hard. So work really hard, be realistic, and learn how to critique yourself. Look at your work and you're like, yeah, that's not probably my best work. Like, I can do that. Like, that's one of the good things about me. I can look at a script and I'm like, no, I didn't do well to that thing. It's just, that's the best I could do. Is not that good. So I know that. And you have to be honest about yourself. If you're honest, that comes across in the work that you do. No matter what work you do. It doesn't matter if it's production work, doesn't matter if it's a writing or directing work. So be honest, be truthful, be objective, and be passionate about it, and keep at it. It's a long journey. It's a very, very eventful journey, but it's also a really fun journey to enjoy if you really enjoy it.
Oh, for sure. Well, and you seem like such a happy guy.
I am. I try to be.
You just said a lot, and I want to try to, I guess, sum it up just so I have it myself. But
sure.
Consume the culture of what you're consuming, and then give back your unique slice of what that is. But in order to do that, you have to put yourself out there, see what opportunities exist, and then work really, really hard to put yourself in that and make some sort of an impact, I guess. And then also look at your own work as you're doing that and be honest with it and critique it and improve it and try to Did I miss anything? I feel
No,
like
no. Develop yourself. Yeah.
develop yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. No, this is great. This is great.
Thank you.
We've been chatting. I mean, I had so many questions to ask you, but I don't even care about them just because I've just enjoyed listening to your journey. And I love that you included so many personal stories of how
I realize that now that I'm heading towards 40, I can't stop talking. I just no. And my father is a politician and my mom was a lawyer, so I was genetically designed to talk to people.
Genetically designed to talk.
Yes.
Well, it's you talk well. You
Thank
talk
you.
very well. I'm wondering, is there anything you wanted to talk about now that we're kind of wrapping up? We talked about your beginnings, your middle, where you want to go, how you're making that happen.
I think I can talk a little bit about my approach, what I'm doing now for like writing. So what I'm doing now is like I'm focusing on two aspects. I'm writing spec. Like I wrote a preschool spec because I knew that in order to get a preschool job, I need to have a good preschool spec. So I wrote that. And I'm also now focusing on creating my own pilots because sometimes the creators and they want to see if you're creative enough to come up with your own stuff. So I think if you're a writer out there like me who's starting, you should have both. You should have a spec of an existing show, and you should have one of your own pilots so that shows your range. And I'm gonna slowly move up. So I'm do preschool, then I'm gonna do a 6 to 9 year old, then I'm gonna do a 10 to 14, then I'm gonna do a 14 plus. And by the time I'll do 14 plus, I'll reach out to Justin Roiland again and say, hey, remember me? So I now have a good spec that I can show it to you to get a job.
And then after that, you'll do a slasher horror film.
Yes. My ultimate dream would be to work full time as a writer. Like that's the dream. But in order to reach to that point, I am, baby steps, one script, which I'm very close. I can't really disclose a lot, but I'm very close to fulfilling that goal of writing one script for this year. And
well, I sincerely hope you accomplish that. It sounds amazing. And I love your strategy of like, keep doing what you're doing, do a good job at it, and then take bite-sized steps to accomplish the next thing. That's great. Because originally your strategy was to go all in, all eggs in one basket in a new country to get into the industry. And now you've changed. Have you changed your strategy just based on how that has gone? Like why wouldn't you quit everything, go to writing school, start networking with writers? Like,
because I like to play a bit safe as well. Not safe, it's just
you're not taking those big risks anymore.
Yeah, I have a kid now.
Like
I'm a father, I have to be sensible. But I was actually always sensible. Like I always had multiple plans, and like I actually at film school, I immediately realized that, oh, you just can't be a writer director, you just can walk in. But then I realized that I had the ability to convince people to letting us use their facility for free. And that's the goal thing for a producer for a student film. Like, it's a goal. Cafe, we're going to film it for 2 hours. It's never going to be 2 hours. It's going to be 6 at least. But you have to be that friendly to get it done, and you sign and everything. And I realized I was very organized. So I had the best binder and everything to get everything, all the permits, security, everything, clearance and done. So I was like, okay, this is my second skill. So you should have other skills. It's not like, unless you're like very talented, like, Neil Manuel Miranda, like, oh, anything he does is gold.
Yeah.
I'm not that good. I know that. So I have to be very realistic.
So you also have knowledge of who you are and what you're really good at. Yeah. So in terms of pursuing the writing, that makes sense because you like maybe when you took the big jump, you knew in your heart that you were this person that in production, but now you're like, I have multiple skills and I'm going to play them out as they develop.
And
that makes sense.
I feel like writing, especially in this part of the world, is such a niche area to get in. You don't get much chance. And it doesn't really matter if you just say that, oh, I have lots of good ideas. People may have ideas, but can you actually execute them? Can you actually make them reality? Can you actually bring them to pages? And can people read it? It's a long way from having just one really cool thought.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I am constantly developing myself, constantly telling myself that my dream of, like creating your own show, having your own show is like having a superpower. It's like, somebody would bite me, something would bite me, and I would be that superhero. Like I would be the Bumblebee man or something like that. But that's so rare. But what you can do, you can also develop skills where you can actually call in Batman and say that, hey, I'm Alfred, and you should take that route.
Yeah.
Because that's a possibility. Like there's a chance that you can be Alfred, and then slowly you can be Robin. You can just push the Robin out slowly from inside, from Alfred to Robin journey. I don't know how, but yeah. So you have to be realistic. You have to be realistic to reach your crazy dream. The crazy dream would be to have your own show on Netflix, have your own show on Disney Plus. But in order to get there, you have to have some writing credit. In order to have some writing credit, you have to have good writing samples. You have to know good people, work really hard, and hopefully somebody will read those samples. They will like it. They'll see that it's a right fit for their show, and then they'll pick you. That's it.
I sincerely hope that happens to you.
Thank you.
To fulfill your dreams. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
No, thank you so much, Terry, for having me. And you have so many amazing guests on your show. I was like blown away when we talked on LinkedIn. But I had a lovely time chatting with you. I feel like I know you, which is really weird. I feel like I know you, and we chatted for hours. So
let's chat again, and maybe I'll make it to BC, and when you make it to Toronto, let's grab a coffee once COVID is over.
Yes, once the COVID is over, we will. I actually have my second dose coming up next.
I had mine already. So
nice. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So this is good. It feels good, right? It feels good.
I'm so happy. Oh my gosh. So happy when it happened.
God, yeah.
I just had it this last weekend, so still
nice.
got to wait a couple of weeks, but step by step, things are opening up and I'm really excited. But Wahid, thank you so much for coming on the chat. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear your journey and to connect. And I'm really happy we chatted.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Yeah, let me know when it's up, and I'll share it on my social media platforms and everything.
Of course. And if you're listening and you want to, get in touch or watch Wahid's work, I've already mentioned a couple times that in the description of this chat, there's going to be some links to his YouTube channel. So make sure you check those out. And thank you so much for listening. And that's all for now. Okay, bye.
The music for this podcast was composed by Will Farmer and the graphics by Daniel Abensauer. I encourage you to look them up if you enjoyed their work.